Give this just a minute longer to see 11:02. I'm going to get started. I'm really excited about this topic today. I appreciate you guys joining me. Hopefully you're as excited as I am. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. As you guys have hopefully seen some messages come through the chat, my colleague Erin, she is helping to facilitate some of that. So if you have any challenges, or better yet, if you have any questions, feedback, we'd love to hear it. And you've got dedicated time with me right here too as I go through this stuff, and excited to show everybody what's in store. So my name is Beth Reichert. If those of you who have not spoken to me before, I am the Director of Operations here with Higher Level. I have been in the payroll world for about 12 years. I've been with Higher Level for 10 of those. And I'm kind of this self-proclaimed nerd of the Higher Level family. I like to get technical and very consultative with clients to help them run their businesses. And I absolutely eat, sleep, and breathe and love payroll, but more importantly, I love our software too, and the HR side of things, and all of the great impacts that we've been able to make with our partners over the years. That's really what gets me excited and keeps me actually coming to work every day, just to get to know all of you and help make an impact. So I meet some people and they will say that they love spreadsheets, they love Excel, they have a spreadsheet for everything. And I see the excitement in their face, and then at the same time, I'm cringing a little bit because I'm trying to get people away from spreadsheets. There's, in the world of AI and the world of technology, there's a fine line between balancing some of that stuff. And what's super exciting about today's information that we're going through is it's going to help, of course, keep you compliant, help you keep track of things, give you your time back, but then also give your employees a really good experience along the way. So we're saying goodbye to spreadsheets for good. If you love them, I'm sorry, but it's time to go. All right. So starting out, just going to go over a few of the things that we're going to talk about today, and then we're going to just get into that software relatively quickly because there's a ton of really great stuff we're going to be going over. So first and foremost, we're going to be starting with electronic onboarding or new hire onboarding. If you are using pen and paper to onboard employees and having them fill out manual W-4s and I-9s, or maybe you're not doing the I-9s like you're supposed to, you want to pay attention because there is a better way to do it. And I know everybody thinks, well, my process works. It's not a big deal. I don't have that much turnover. But ultimately, electronic onboarding has more valuable features to it than just that whole process as a whole. And we really want to look at the compliance side of things and electronic record keeping and all of that good stuff. And again, back to that really good employee experience. So we're also going to be talking about that importance of, not losing track of these documents, employee files. If you can look around and see a filing cabinet full of employee personnel files, yep, you're in the right place. This is the seat for you too. And, unfortunately, we're living in a world where we see more and more compliance restrictions, audits. Employees are going to the Department of Labor a lot more now than they used to, and sometimes rightfully so, and in other times maybe not so rightfully so. So having your I's dot and your T's crossed, that's extremely important. And then we're going to be talking about some of the, not just about the personnel file, but the maintaining people, the people management side too of this. And that's going to be going through performance reviews, electronic performance reviews, and using our tool as a reminder, a tracker, just everything that you need to communicate that to your employees and maybe your manager and supervisors as well. Just a fun little statistic here, 40% of HR teams are spending time, HR teams spend 40% of their time on manual tasks. And I'm sure that's not too surprising to many of you, or else you wouldn't be joining me on the call today. So some other challenges that you're facing right now, or that I see clients facing, are, of course, as I talked about, compliance risks, OSHA reporting, federal reporting. It's incredibly hard to keep up with all of this. And even if you're in the state of Illinois right now, That could just simply be, your mandatory new PTO tracking. Is it compliant? How am I keeping up with it? What am I doing when an employee gets terminated? What do I have to pay out? Those nuances, from mandatory sexual harassment training, all of the different things that we're seeing from different states and at a higher level. The great thing is that we process payroll and we support HR teams across the United States. So we have access to the information to try to help you be compliant and to help utilize the software to maintain those standards as well. Managing employee training and development, I think this is something that higher level is incredibly passionate about. We work with partners from recruitment to retirement. And when we bring people on board, having a really good training and career path and staying on top of that career path with individuals is what ultimately leads to lower turnover. So we really want to talk through, again, those performance reviews and monitoring compensation plans and, when's the last time they got a raise, all of that good stuff. So onboarding headaches. 69% of employees are more likely to stay with a company for 3 years if they experience a great onboarding process. That is a staggering statistic, 69%. So having that good process in the beginning and not spending days doing paperwork and just slow moving to start their new job, that doesn't set the tone, right? First impressions are everything. The benefits to that onboarding, of course, it's accelerating the time to productivity. It's enhancing that employee experience. We're reducing errors and we're improving compliance. We have some automation that we're going to talk about today when we look at it in the software. That automation includes I-9 management, performance reviews, employee messages. There's a great employee message tool that you can use to remind people about updated handbooks that need signed, or mandatory sexual harassment training needs to be completed, tracking all of that. And even if you have individuals that are driving a company vehicle for you, say you're an HVAC company, and that HVAC company, you've got individuals driving your vehicles. Well, you need to make sure their driver's license isn't going to expire, right? Because ultimately they're driving around company equipment, and that could lead to not a good situation if they get pulled over or something happens and they don't have a valid driver's license. So keeping track of things like that, and then instant delivery of expectations. Whether you're putting that in the onboarding process, you're helping to build that culture from the beginning, to then when they are onboarded, they automatically can start their benefits enrollment. They can elect what their 401k elections are going to be. They can start that sexual harassment training. It's going to happen right off the bat, and it's not going to be on you to remember to have that conversation with them. You're going to have a system that's able to track, document, store, remind, all that good stuff. Chaos and compliance risks. So I wanted to briefly talk about, again, paper files. What do your filing cabinets look like right now? How long are you keeping track of these? So we have some helpful tools and resources available for you, but just throwing a couple of these numbers out here for you all to know and reflect on, what does my current process look like? You have to you're required by law to keep I-9s on record for 3 years, W-4s on file for 4, time cards on file for 2 years, job applications and background checks, if you're doing that outside of our system or outside of higher level. That is, or you're not using an applicant tracking system, if you've got people applying for you, you have to keep that on file for 2 years. And expense reimbursements or wages paid, anything really that payroll related information, that has to be kept on record for 4 years. So look back and think about, do I have every single application that's been sent in to me on record here from the last 2 years? A lot of businesses that I work with don't. If they don't have an interest in a candidate, they throw that out the door. The same goes for I-9s and W-4s. They are ready to clean their office at the end of the year, and that person doesn't work for me anymore. I'm going to throw that file away. Well, you can't. And the cumbersome part of that is that if you are in an audit, if something does happen and you don't have any of that information, there's been businesses that have been fined as much as millions of dollars. I mean, it's a very serious thing. So your payroll system, our payroll system, system is providing you with functionality that you may not be using. And that's the whole point of me spending this time with you, is really, really to look at these key things and to keep that centralized and in a place where anybody can access it. Audit trails and version controls, employee policy acknowledgement tracking. If you have somebody that comes back and says something, goes to the Department of Labor, you need to make sure they have signed off on that handbook. Or if you don't have a handbook, you need to get that going and put that in here. So a lot of this can be very intimidating stuff, but you're going to see just how easy it is in our system here in just a moment. So smarter performance and training tools. I've got a little QR code here. If you want to scan that, it talks about which states require mandatory sexual harassment training. So I sit in Illinois, so I, of course, am an expert on Illinois compliance standards. And Illinois requires every employer to do sexual harassment training. If you're not doing that right now, it's never too late. We can help with that. We can get that in the system and get it all tracked, so it's not one more thing, and the system does it all for you. Another state that we work with heavily in is people who have individuals in New York. That also, there's a requirement there. California, there are several states. So be sure and scan that to see if your state qualifies, or if you have any remote employees there, you need to make sure that you are conducting that annual sexual harassment training. All right. So just real quick snapshot, because I feel like not everybody, if you're already a payroll partner of ours or a people management partner of ours, you probably are using us for some of that core functionality. And that core functionality, of course, paying people is the most important piece of employee retention. It is our most important goal every single day, is to make sure our clients, employees get paid effectively, accurately, and on time. But in the world we live in, as I've gone through all of these big scary things, there is more to a payroll system now than ever, and those enhancements continue to evolve. And our partner, iSolved, some of you who are on this call may not be on that platform, and that's okay. We can still absolutely talk about moving this over. No extra charge to move that over. But if you're using iSolved already, you might be surprised at some of the things you're seeing. So the way we kind of break up the different functionalities in the system, employee, enable, empower, that employee life cycle. And right now we're focusing on HR and payroll, specifically the HR bucket and everything that falls underneath there. Salary and job history, certification tracking, audit and compliance, offboarding, document management. If you are attending our product webinars that we do every other month, this is a great way to take a look at these different features and to think about maybe how you can use those. I know we've got one on benefits automation that's coming up, but lots of really, really great stuff in the system. So if you see anything you're interested in, or you think, I didn't know it could do that, please be sure and reach out to me or your account manager, and we'll be happy to talk about that. All right. So of course, you all will have my information at the end of this, but right now we're going to get into the software. We're going to get into the good stuff. Of course, if you know iSolved, it's timed me out here, so hang with me just a minute. Okay, so I want to specifically look at the onboarding side of things from an employee's perspective, because some of you might be thinking, well, not everybody has access to a computer. Not everybody is maybe so technically, so you may have some that are technically challenged. How does all this work, right? So I always like to talk about the employee perspective, because after all, that's one of the most important things about this. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit just to give you guys a better snapshot. So just like everything else in iSolved, this whole process, everything I talk about today is custom tailored to you. It's not a one size shoe fits all. It is basically you pick the shoe, you pick the design, and we're going to make it fit for you. And starting with onboarding, I always recommend when I'm doing coaching or consulting to say, hey, make this a good process. Put some kind of fun messaging in there. Do you have a video that welcomes your team in? Do you have, attach your website on there, attach your social media, get them engaged in this process from the beginning. And the great part is they don't need to do this in the office. They can, if they maybe have some challenges, they could do this on their first day. Still a lot faster and better than having them fill out a paper application, but they can do this from their phone. So you're going to initiate the onboarding to them by basically just having their first name and last name and email address, They get the link and they open it up and they're going to fill all this out. So this is in my demo account, kind of a generic one where you can see what we've done here. We've got our direct deposit form that they can fill out, their employee handbook. It requires that to be acknowledged. So if I click on that blue hyperlink, it's going to open that for me. My employee conduct policy, the same thing. I'm going to be able to sign off on that. And then there's some links down at the bottom. This is just higher level links. I put our website, what is our why. That's a little history video of who Higher Level is and how our present owner built the organization over the last 30 years anniversary this year. So that's just a way for us to get that engagement in there. And then some informational documents. We have different policies at work here that don't necessarily need to be signed off on, but it's nice for people to know. All right, so when I hit continue, this is a wizard-driven format. It's going to just click me through everything that I need to do. And my welcome documents, that's that first page, but my personal information, when I click start here, I've done this. I had started this at one point in time and I left off. So you can see it saves my place. If I can't get to it all, if I can't finish it right that moment, it's going to save what I've already entered in there. So personal information, of course, that's going to be just typical, a name, address, all that good stuff. But the great thing about the contacts part of this is two things. It helps give you an emergency contact in a centralized place so your manager or supervisor can log into iSolved quickly and see an emergency contact if they have to. You don't have to go pull the file, find the piece of paper where it says where your emergency contact is. It's in a system you could quickly log into from your phone or from a computer. So I can also indicate whether or not this individual is a beneficiary or dependent. Why is that important? Well, if you're offering health insurance, medical insurance, vision, dental, anything like that, and even life insurance, there's that built-in benefits tracking side of things. So that way it knows, okay, here are the individuals that are covered under my health insurance. Here's the beneficiary to my life insurance plan. So it's a one-stop shop where employees are entering all of this data themselves instead of you all having to enter that into the system later, or even just again tracking that in a paper file. So I really do like this piece of it because you get really, you're checking the box for multiple reasons and just adding those simple contacts in. All right, I'm going to skip around here a little bit. So I, of course, being a payroll and tax nerd here, I love, love, love the tax wizard in this. I say it all the time that there should be a class in high school that teaches you how to fill out a W-4. Unfortunately, that's not reality, and W-4s are intimidating and W-4s get filled out wrong every single day. So this, I feel like, makes it a little bit more simple and helps you guide through it without looking at this piece of paper, especially since they changed it in 2020. This is a much more simpler format to do it. It does come in another language. I will say too, I know iSolved is working on adding multiple other languages in this right now. It's just English and Spanish, but there are more languages to come. I know they're actively working on that. So here it knows I need to get started on my federal W-4. If at any time I want to switch from my wizard format to my forms and instructions, I can by just clicking onto that. But you can just see it's just asking me those very simple yes, no questions, right? Am I exempt? I am not exempt. We know there are hardly any individuals out there that are not exempt from federal withholding, despite what people mark on their box. Single or married, all of this good stuff. Just breezing through this for you all. And then I'm going to do none of the above. And would I like to claim any dependents? Sure, why not? And again, it will automatically know what I need to do here. All right, so I've quickly went through that and I am signing off on this with the last four of my social security number. And if you see, if I scroll down here to the bottom, it automatically knew because I put in that one dependent to put in $2,000, right? It made it very simple for me. And then it populates that W-4. So if you were to ever have anybody come back on you with any of these federal forms, they will uphold in court. This is going to submit my form. It's going to save it. So when I submit my documents, when I'm done with my onboarding, this is all going to be categorized into that electronic library, into my employee profile there in iSolved. So it can always be referenced upon, especially next tax filing season when somebody comes back and says, I owe, you didn't take enough taxes. Well, then we can come back and reference, and the employee can as well come back and see this. Other than, in other cases, it would be you pulling your file out to find their W-4 if you have it on file, because remember, W-4, 4 years. All right, so that would take you through your state form as well. And iSolve does have that built-in tax engine. So based off of their work location and their resident address, it knows where to tax. So you typically pay taxes where you work. And there are some states that hold up reciprocity, and it knows that as well. What is reciprocity? That is where there's an agreement upon the states that say, if I live in Illinois but work in Kentucky, I can have Illinois withheld from my check, which is discretionary up to the employer. All right, so Form I-9 looks very similar to the W-4 process. I'm filling out my stuff, I'm attaching my information in there, and then it again populates that form for me. Now, every single one of you should be collecting a Form I-9 from your employees on the onboarding process. Some of you, depending on what state you're in, you may be required to then do E-Verify. There is an E-Verify integration within iSolve that sends those off. If you're interested in learning more about that, please contact me, but you definitely want to be collecting Forms I-9. So there, you don't want to be caught without that being completed. Okay, so for EEO and vet certification, so if you're required to do EEO reporting, I know that reporting is just due this month, I believe. It's good to just go ahead and start collecting this information. So that is based off of how many employees you have, and I believe if you're an applicable large employer. So I always just recommend collect it. It's not hurting anything. We can hide or put access to this, all of it on there. This is all very choosable when you're saying, okay, these are the things I want to collect. These are the things I don't want to collect. When it comes to some of these federal reporting data, I just say leave it on there so they can get it. I don't have selected on this specific one, but you can also collect your workers' opportunity tax credit information, your WOTC forms. If you are taking advantage of those tax credits back to you, you can have those forms completed through here, and then it could then fax to the state to get those tax credits. That is a huge thing for higher level. We have that done with all of the individuals that we work with, who work for us, I should say, and take advantage of that tax credit as you should. So that's not elected on here to be showing, but you definitely can still do it. Okay, certifications and skills. I like to get creative with certification. And when I talked about that HVAC company earlier, and tracking that motor vehicle record, that driver's license, you can do that through certification tracking. So if I wanted to put driver's license in here, you may need a little bit of coaching on this with your new hires, but you can add this in the system regardless. Or maybe you work for a doctor's office and you require CPR, or a child care facility. We support all different businesses. There's so many ways to track this. Now, what's really nice about certifications is that there is a built-in workflow that you can say, all right, 30 days before this expires, I want you to remind the employee and to remind me. So it sends an email and a notification through the app that says, hey, you've got a certification that's about to expire. So that way you're not trying to keep track of it on that spreadsheet, get rid of it, and it's all in the system, and you can quickly see who has these things. You can run a report to see who has a CPR certification, just to make sure you're staying on top of it. I had one client who they were in and out of nursing homes pretty regularly, and so they had some vaccination requirements for the industry that they were in. So they used their certifications to do some of that stuff as well. People get really creative with this, and that's why I don't like to say no. If there's something you're manually tracking, there's a good chance we can probably help track that in here as well. So skills, some people like to track the skills of people just to be able to, again, run a report. If you're looking at moving staff around, who has experience in forklift driving, who has experience in ABC. So that way, if you've got other positions that are open, you see who has those skills and you can quickly go and look and see who you need to have a conversation with. All right. So last but not least, additional information. There is additional information that you can collect as well. So we call them these miscellaneous fields. If there's anything that you're collecting on a piece of paper specific to your organization, then again, we can use MISC fields to add that in. So here at Higher Level, we collect t-shirt size and favorite dessert. We like to celebrate every chance we get. So we want to know what treat people like on their birthday or anniversary. We also like to give t-shirts out. If you follow us on social media, you see we wear a lot of red t-shirts, red highs. And so we like our t-shirts. We like our company swag that we call it. So we got to track that. And that way it makes it really easy for our marketing team to quickly get a reference point off of that. So you can add really anything again in here. This can be a drop-down field. It could be fillable, and you can then run a report off of all of that as well. So that's a quick snapshot view at the employee's perspective. So once they're done, I'm going to show you, I did not show you supporting documents here. This is where they would upload copies of their voided check. Also, they would upload, driver's license, those forms that are, those IDs that are required by Form I-9, all of that good stuff can be put here. And at any point in time, we could add some message text over here on the right. This is all custom that says what they need to add in here to help them get through the onboarding process. So that is something that we will help add as well. So it will only let me submit this if I have all my green checks, but I can, as an employer, push this through manually. But the idea is to get the employees to do all of this so you don't have to do it any longer. All right, so now we're hopping into the admin perspective, which is one of the most important pieces. Oh, well, let's go to a new browser here. Hang with me just a minute. I need to log out. I'm doing too many browsers. Okay, let's see here. Let me hop into my demo account. Okay, so where do I manage my onboarding? There is a screen that's called pending employees. So when I come to my pending employees, here I can see the status of my my employees in the onboarding process. So you can see this is my test employee and I'm still waiting on them. Once they complete their portion, it's going to show green and it's basically going to say waiting on you, or it's ready to be onboarded. So this gives me a look at where everyone is at. If somebody says, I didn't get the link, I can hit this ... right here and hit resend activation. Or maybe somebody just doesn't end up starting. You can delete that pending employee as well. Or I can just bypass this employee's onboarding altogether and manually do it, because you will come across some individuals who have a hard time with this. That's the reality of technology. And the good news is there's a workaround for that always. So I'm not going to go through that today, but now I'm going to go ahead and pivot to some of these other great HR tracking functionalities within the system that I've already kind of hit on, but we're going to start with looking at our, we're going to start by looking into underneath our employee admin tools. We are going to look at our employee administration. So depending on what you're using in the system and how you're transitioning into, going paperless and getting rid of those spreadsheets, this is where you'll really spend a good chunk of your time underneath the employee admin tools. Now, you may not see all of those menu items quite yet underneath your login, like compensation management or employee scheduling. Some of these are different features that maybe just need to be turned on. So don't get alarmed if you don't see it. You can definitely just ask and we can see if it's just something that's not turned on the access for you. But specifically looking at our I-9 dashboard, because this can really burn everyone. Again, I-9s have to be stored for 3 years. And there are also different requirements for when you rehire someone. Do they need a new I-9? It depends on how long they were gone, all of that good stuff. So there is an I-9 completion due now. This is a little dashboard, gives you a snapshot of what needs to be done that keeps you current. So when you do onboard people, you make sure the employer's portion of the I-9 does get completed. Of course, the employee's doing theirs. Well, if you can finish your stuff here, do it electronically, then it then saves that form in its entirety. I'm going to look and see. I don't think I have a demo employee. Yeah, you can see this is my demo account. So it really doesn't have one for me to take a look at. But if you do use it, there's some great tools. So here is somebody that was just onboarded recently. You can see we've got completed timely as my completion status. And then I can run my date range to see what I need to do, or the last several new hires, just to go back and do an audit of them. So great built-in audit tool for your I-9s. And then this informational I-9 data, this is where you can manually fill this out, because of course this says neither employee nor employer has electronically completed this information, basically. And so you can go in and log this. So if you're looking at a filing cabinet right now and you're like, oh yeah, I would love to get rid of this stuff, I'd love to get it out of here, you can absolutely come in here and complete this, and then you'd have a good audit record of that. So when you're also onboarding individuals, you can go ahead and schedule performance reviews. So let's take a look at our performance reviews stuff that's built out, which is right underneath employee management. I'm a search the menu kind of girl because that's just what I like to do. But when I click on employee performance review history, I can see the different performance reviews that I've had. And then you can set these up really customizable. This is so tailored to your organization. You can see there's one that was just done for this employee and it's pending employee acknowledgement. I need them to acknowledge it for it to show completed. So I'm going to give you a quick look at the actual performance review side and how these are built out. So there's two different ways to do performance reviews in iSolved. There is one, which you've maybe seen the webinar or the information on it before. It's a little bit more fluffy, pretty, engaging, and it gives 360 feedback, and that is through the share and perform functionality. But there is some basic performance review tracking and record keeping within the iSolved tool already, within the HRIS side of things. So if I'm underneath my client management menu item, that is how I set things up. So if I go underneath here to performance, I can see where I have awards, corrective actions, and performance reviews. So when I look at this, I can set up as many performance reviews as I'd like: annual, probationary, all of the different ones. I can have different ratings. That could be on a scale of 1 to 5. It could be open-ended comments, all that good stuff. And I can make it to where this is an employee self-review. I know for us at 45 days, we ask our team members to do a self-review on how the training's gone. And then after that, the manager and supervisor completes those review. Or maybe you want both people to fill out a review at their annual just to see how things are going. Again, culture, stay on top of these things, being able to look at when's the last time they got a raise, how are they performing, what training do they need. Having this tracked in here to where it sends an email, it literally will notify me. It will say, hey, Beth, so-and-so is ready for their performance review. Then you can go in and complete that as you need to. And it also then notifies the employee, you're due up for a performance review. Please complete your self-evaluation by going on here. So I've got a pre-built report kind of already built out where you can see just how much you can add in this. Now, some people don't even have a performance review template. Some absolutely have some stuff already built out. So this organization, they really wanted the technical skill to be tracked. So they did mobile X-ray, mobile ultrasound. So there's a lot of technical skills required in these roles. So they added some notes in here, and then in their other different things, this is where their checklist of how they're performing in those different features. And you can see they just have that exceeds expectation, meets, all of that. That's the way they choose to do it. And it's pretty extensive. There's a lot of questions on this. Communication then pivots to a different type of selections: met, not applicable. So this is all something that we can help you set up in the back end. And then when you go through and you're filling it out, you just go through that wizard driven format, just like iSolved always does. And then at the end, once everybody signs off on it, this then saves into their employee document. So it's always in there and you can go back and see how they were rated. And this one specifically, we gave an overall total point 64 out of 70. And it's in there and it's good to go. And that employee now knows where they stand. Again, transparency is everything. Okay, then we are going to pivot off of performance reviews and we're going to go into our employee management. If you've ever gotten curious, here's where get curiouser, I guess, if that's the right word I want to use. Underneath HR, we've got several different tracking items available. company assets, this is where you're tracking who has what document, or document, who has what piece of equipment, I should say. So whether that's a door code, a cell phone, a computer, whatever it might be, you can track this here. Why does this matter? Well, for us, it's about time for some of us to get new laptops. So for our IT individual or those responsible for ordering those parts and different things, it's nice to be able to log in and see, okay, I'm going to run a report to see how old are our laptops, who has the oldest laptop. More importantly, when you have somebody that's terminated and you offboard them, you need to know what equipment people have. Do they have a door code? Do they have a cell phone? What are the different things that I need to collect back from this individual? And by tracking these different things in the system, that termination report shows exactly what pieces of equipment they have. Okay. So then continuing on down underneath performance, we already talked about our performance reviews, but there's also award tracking, whether you want to track the employee of the month, customer service, occurrences, did anything happen that you need to document? Well, why do I need to document all of this, Beth? Well, like I said earlier, I was talking about all those different personnel data. The Department of Labor and the FLSA says that you need to keep track of personnel related data for up to 2 years. So if you have anything like this that's happening and then you have any kind of claim that comes against you, you need to have documentation of these occurrences that they happened. Or maybe people are filing for unemployment and you're trying to manage your unemployment costs. Having this stuff in here makes your life a heck of a lot easier. Corrective actions. So occurrence would be the actual item. A corrective action would be what was done for the occurrence. So was there a meeting and coaching? Did they get a write-up? Was it a verbal warning, a written warning? What are the different items that get built up to that? Regulatory data. So OSHA incidents. Incidents are required. You're required to report OSHA incidents if you have more than 10 employees in certain industries. So construction, manufacturing, health. I know healthcare has very specific regulations related to this. So you can track those OSHA incidents in iSolved as well. That's available to you. You can track all of the different things, and that way your OSHA reporting is simple. Your federal reporting data, as I mentioned earlier, where you're collecting the disability, EEO, and vets, that's all in there, as well as your WOTC certification. Underneath training and certification, I already went through the certification process. We talked about that, where you could use this in different features. If you are wanting to track, CPR, driver's license, anything like that, you can. And again, there's that built-in workflow that tells you when that step's about to expire. Education, skills, and training, that is all in here as well. So the training you can also track if you require mandated reported training. If you're maybe a daycare and you have some of that required training, you can put all of that in here. Okay, let's quickly, before we wrap up, I've got 2 more areas to talk about, and then we will go to our chat and our questions and answers and look at some of that. So if you see anything you have more questions on, or if any of these things get you excited and you give me that feedback, I'd love to hear it. So one other tool in iSolved that not everybody knows about, and let me just quickly say, this menu item, employee self-service right here, this is going to be this is what the employees see. So that's why you have that menu item. So if you want to see what the employee can see, you can come right here and go under your self-service. So I'm specifically going to look at employee messages. So you can use the employee message functionality, and this does also transfer over to the mobile app and to the adaptive view, or the prettier view. But you can use the messages to communicate with your employees and staff, and to also get new correspondence out related to updated forms, so you can get new signatures and all of that completed. This is also where we're using one of the tools and choices to put on your mandatory sexual harassment training. So there's 2 different ways that we support that. That's through the learning management system, our LMS, or you could do it right here through the portal through iSolved with this quick video link as well. So you can create these messages, add any sort of link, video, document. This is just a, hey, I'm communicating this to you. And if an employee's logging in to clock in and out or to get their pay stub, this is a really good spot to have this stuff as well, because it's going to post on their landing page. As soon as they log in, they're going to see these notices and they'll be able to address them, as opposed to sending another email. Nobody wants to do that. So definitely don't lose sight of the fact that you can use iSolve to communicate with your staff. There is also a mass email utility within the system. So if you want to use that and send an email out to everybody's self-service emails that's in the system, you can communicate that way as well. The other good part about this is that you can track actual forms. So if you're doing sexual harassment training, there's a form that's called, there's a screen that's called Documents on File. And the documents on file area is where you're going to actually go and run a report to see who has all of these documents. So if I specifically want to look at the sexual harassment training or that updated handbook, who signed off on it, I can use these filters here and it will populate the data and it will tell me what the upload date is, the completion date, and then I could quickly run a report to see who doesn't have it. But the other nice part is iSolved has that built-in email notification. If they don't complete it, you can harass them until the sun comes up. You could just be that annoying person that continuously emails them and you don't have to do it. The system automatically does it. So again, we're trying to eliminate the work and the tracking for you all. So that is the documents, employee messages and how you use that. So back on our employee documents though, bringing it full circle back to really what I'm trying to help you all accomplish. Of course, don't track paid time off manually, please. You have a tool in a system that does it and does it well. If you're having troubles with it, please let me know. I'm happy to take a look at it. There's very few policies that I've seen that we can't build out in here to track. Same with these different things that we've gone over today. Don't use a spreadsheet when you have a very powerful award-winning tool like iSolved and us here to support you in using that. You have a filing cabinet full of files. Start using these employee documents. So iSolved has these different categories here, like personal health information. You can't put benefit summaries inside those paper files. You can't put doctor's notes in there. You have to keep that stuff separate in a completely separate folder. So again, keeps you compliant, keeps you organized in here. And if you're on vacation in Florida, you can come quickly see what's in here as well. So employee uploads, that would be anything that they upload themselves, and you can restrict whether or not they have access in here. Payroll is going to be W-4, any direct deposit forms, things like that. Also wage garnishments, you can store that. Child support orders, that can all be stored in here. So this is your electronic document storage, and this is what everything filters to after you complete your onboarding. All right, I have gone through quite a bit today, and I could keep going because there's so much in here, but we're going to stop here today, and I am going to go ahead and check out our chat to see what we've got going on in here. Okay, let me start at the top. We will, and go ahead and add new questions in there if you need help as well. Let's see. We will be sending out the PowerPoint presentation too if you're concerned about the sexual harassment training stuff. Absolutely. Okay. One of our attendees here was talking about the onboarding, and so I think maybe specifically we can have a conversation around that. So onboarding, electronic onboarding, that may not be something that you initially had set up, or maybe in the implementation process, that's not as widely used to get somebody started with us on services, just simply because they're already on staff for you, so you don't want to create new W-4s for everyone. But, generally we get that information when we log into people's payroll systems, ADP, Paycor, Paychecks, we go pull out that W-4 information that they have saved in there. So the record keeping that I've gone over today is definitely something that we don't necessarily load documents in there for you, but we have that tool that's available for you to be able to use. Okay, Sandy, can the message be to an individual or any and all employees? Yes, absolutely. So let me quickly reshare my screen here. And there is a screen that is called Employee Assignments. So it's underneath Employee Management, Human Resources, Employee Assignments. So if I wanted to just one-off assign this to someone, I could go here and click Add New. I'm going to choose a message, and I can choose my different message that I built in here, put in my effective date and my expiration date. So yes, absolutely. You can assign those one off, or you can just bulk do it. You can actually even add eligibility rules in there to filter off who gets access to these messages or not. Great question. Okay. Yes, we'll definitely have the training recording to be sent out to everyone. I think this is just kind of skimming the surface of the different HR functionalities within the system. Of course, everything's married together in there. So if you'd like to have a more in-depth call with me and to go over the system and the different ins and outs and nooks and crannies and all that good stuff, I'm more than happy to do that. I like to just hear what spreadsheets you have or what pen and paper process. I'm going to pivot over to one other. Don't see any other questions or feedback. I will give everybody just a couple more minutes here. If you have any other questions, feel free to put those in the chat for me so I can see that. And I can definitely take a look in the system. And otherwise, this recording will be sent out. Thanks everyone for your time. Excited to get you all using the system and using the system to what it's there for. Remember, we are not just a payroll partner, we're your people management partner. Does the system send out OSHA and HIPAA when the employees do, or is it a reminder? I believe it's a reminder, so it's not going to send out. iSolved will never send anything out of the system that could be considered private information or anything like that. It typically will send out employee messages or reminder, and that's text that you have built out. So some of that functionality is definitely in there, but it's usually more so of a reminder, or if it's used as an employee message, then that's going to have that in there on that main screen when you log in. Okay, right. I would love to hear what everyone's takeaway was from today. Hopefully it's that higher levels more than just payroll. There's a lot more that we could be using, and I've got some work to do to get my life more streamlined. That's the goal ultimately, and our team is here to support you in those questions. And like I said, you'll have a copy of the presentation, you'll have my contact information, and I would love nothing more than to meet with you all and to get things streamlined. Have a great day.